would probably take an average 1-2 grinder playing his A game over an average 25-50 grinder playing his C game any day.
You're listening to the Mindset Advantage podcast. Each week, you'll get to peek inside the greatest minds in the game and discover what makes them successful.
Mental toughness separates those that can't handle the stress.
If you're going to treat it like an amateur, you're probably going to have amateur results.
Here are your hosts, Elliot Rowe and Adrian Talenchik Rousum.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Big news today. I was lucky enough to be out in Vegas last weekend working with Scott for his main event win, and he's decided to come on the show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking to Scott about winning the main event, what it means for him and his life, and what that whole experience is like. So Adrian, what do you think?
Well, the deepest I've ever made it in the main event was the end of day 3, and it was exhausting. I am excited to know, what the feel is as you approach the final table and onwards and upwards.
It's going to be really interesting to get to ask him these questions and share all of that info. So let's give Scott a call.
I have to say I am thrilled for our next guest. We have Scott Blumstein on the show this afternoon, and fresh off becoming a multi-millionaire. So welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, Scott, thanks for coming on the show. So how does it feel? Main event winner 2017. Got to be one of the bucket list ticked off, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you could say, on a list of accomplishments, I guess that would make it as one that, dreaming about since I was a kid. So, things are just crazy right now, honestly.
I'd imagine you have just a ton of questions coming at you all the time. But what I am most interested in is having you go back to day 1. Lots of us have played day 1As, but you sit down at that table. What's going through your head then?
Mostly just excitement, honestly. This is my first main event, my first tournament with a buy-in over 3,500, and I really just went in looking forward to it. It was a feeling of something I had anticipated for a while, and at the end of the day, my goal was to just have a good time and play in the main event, and I was accomplishing it, so things were good.
And then you're building your stack day after day. When did it start crossing your mind that, hey, this might be the one?
I mean, I the one thing I will say, I was very fortunate on day 3 to accumulate some chips throughout that day. I mean, I came in with a big stack relative, but just because you come in with 375K, well, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a good day 3. So I ended up coming into some fortune there. And once you get a big stack and the bubble comes around, that was a fun little period. And so going into day 4, 8th in chips was really like an aha moment. Like, wow, I guess if we're going to play this thing, if we're going to be top 10 with a couple of days left, might as well try to make a run at it.
How long did the bubble last? And what was it like playing on the bubble when you had so many chips?
Yeah, so I actually kind of expected it to last a little bit longer. I mean, once you got I would actually say the longest period was like maybe 100 away, and getting from 100 away to hand for hand. There was definitely a little bit of stalling, which is par for the course, and just the way kind of poker works now, and just kind of showed how tough my table was because they knew that they should be doing that, and all that combined, the bubble itself wasn't really what I super expected it to be. And at first, I was losing pots, and I even tweeted like, "Is this how this works? Like, I don't think this is how it's supposed to go." But I eventually turned it around and had a pretty nice bubble. So it was an interesting experience, and people definitely wanted cash. It's no secret, and I don't blame them. So it was fun.
And then you get to it. You've reached the final table. How did it feel as that last guy goes out and you're one of the 9?
Yeah,
and number 1 of those 9 as well.
Yeah. That whole day 7 was the first time that I was even on a featured table. I somehow went without being there once. So with 3 tables left, they thrust me into this spotlight and had a really good start to day 7, and then made a really big mistake. Probably my first major mistake all tournament, and almost cost me, but I get back in it. And then, like you said, I mean, the feeling of making the final table was something that, I mean, when you don't actually, like, when it's something you can't actually ever imagine happening in your head and then it's happening, it's hard to really feel too much because, the biggest emotion that's going through me is just shock. But, great experience. And with no November 9 anymore, it was especially crazy because I knew the turnaround was so quick.
When you're getting down to the final table and at the final table, did you notice any change in the mindset of your opponents?
Definitely. I mean, I think just from a strategy standpoint, some people, the funniest part is it all comes down to your stack size, right? I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of correlation between, mental aptitude and stack size, because I would argue that you need to be even more focused sometimes when you're a short stack and kind of need to play this game of waiting out other people. So you could definitely see, people's thought process starting to change at that point.
And was there any moment when you saw that someone was really sort of sacrificing themselves, where the anxiety was not necessarily near the final table, but like as you were getting closer, did you see any of those sort of slight blow-ups and things? I've had guys mention that in the past.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I was the victim of that myself. I think that was me for that one brief moment. So the interesting thing about this final table was, if you look at the final 10, 3 of them had already been there before. So I think from a psychological standpoint, that's got to be a huge advantage, right? So I think in that aspect, those guys weren't going to do any sort of falling under any pressure or mental relapse. So I wasn't, and then, everyone else there was, the other kid, Dan Ott, who I ended up getting heads up with, was kind of a newbie too, and someone who I would expect not to be able to handle the moment. But I was actually impressed with his ability to hang in there and keep playing the game he was playing. So honestly, I didn't see too much of that.
You've alluded a couple times, and I think this is probably what your tweet was about. You tweeted, sometimes all you can ask for is a second chance. Does that refer to your blow up, or?
Yeah, directly. Yeah, that's all it was. It was just, I screwed up. I had one, what I consider to be a mental lapse. And I was just grateful that an orbit later, I got lucky. So the interesting part was that, sure, an orbit later, I was able to double, but at the same time, I was really happy with how I played the hand. And, that's important from a mental aspect, was especially, this was prior to working with Elliot at all. And I was kind of impressed with myself that despite making a huge mistake that, I knew I might regret for the rest of my life, I was able to stay focused. And I do think that I handled myself pretty well after that.
You got to the final table, and then instead of 3 months of preparation, you had 2 days. How much did that change things? Obviously, you reached out to me, but I'm assuming, the technical side it must be very hard to get anything like the technical training that guys have been getting in the last few years.
Well, yeah, anything, right? Any sort of coaching or training for any aspect of playing poker in the final table is going to be condensed into 48 hours. And it was definitely something that I actually ended up being grateful for. Just because I thought that we handled it pretty well, me and my team, and as far as using that time to do the things necessary. And when you have 4 months, it just kind of allows for everyone at the final table to kind of get everything in the check and take care of everything they need to do. When I think it definitely worked to my advantage, the short turnaround. I just wish it was like a day or two longer, just for a day of kind of relaxing and decompressing before getting to work on the things that were important.
What sort of things did you do on your days off, even in the early stages? Because which day one did you play?
I played 1C. So I had the first 2 days off, and I actually went to Summer League over at UNLV to kind of relax and just have some fun before and after playing day 1C.
What's Summer League?
It's for the NBA. It's where they invite all the rookies and the second year guys to come, and it's basically just glorified scrimmages with like young NBA players, and it's super accessible and cheap. It's a great time. If you like basketball and you're in Vegas for WSOP, you should definitely go next year. That's all I'll say about that.
Very cool. And then what about on those 2 days, the next 2 days off? Like, how did you plan out that 48 hours? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so we, a big part of it was I broke it into two parts, really. I wanted to work on my mental game and I wanted to work on my poker game. And honestly, with the 48 hours, I thought the mental game was probably more important than any technical stuff I could really learn at that juncture, just because of the magnitude of the situation. It's something that, something that unless you're someone who's already been in the spotlight before, you can't really handle it. So I knew there was going to be some moments where I was going to be happy that I, had some guidance and I had someone keeping me in check. And that was really what I thought my priority should be.
Hey, man, I can't agree with you anymore there.
Yeah. Sounds like that's that's basically your pitch.
Yeah, exactly. You've just done an advert for me.
You're welcome. I love it.
Was mental game ever on your radar even before this? Like, what sort of adversities have you had to overcome during your poker career?
Yeah, so I've always been into mental health and just the brain and psychology and whatever. And the truth is that I never actually worked on it. I'm kind of a hypocrite, right? I wanted everyone else to work on it, but I never truly worked on it on myself. Now, with that being said, I do have to give myself credit because I actually kind of think that I was able to somehow change my mindset on my own, where like it was just this process of going through, almost like I hit, I had some lows, and then during the lows, I kind of made this decision to try to get to some point. And over the last year, I really feel like I put myself in a place to be mentally prepared enough to even accomplish something like this. So, bringing in Elliot at the end was just the cherry on top. And, I definitely wish I would have worked on it definitely wish I would have gotten help prior, but, I was able to do it without help. So I feel good about it.
And then sort of on the day when you walk out for the final table and it's all real, how did that feel in that moment of stepping out there and, this is it, I'm chip leader, there's 9 of us left and there's 8 million up top?
Honestly, the coolest part about the whole experience was that I really was able to have a lot of fun. And on top of that, the money wasn't really what was motivating me. What was motivating me was wanting to just play the best poker I could play. So when that was the case, partner with the fact that you have a guy like John Hess on your right who was there to have, he was having the time of his life, and that rubbed off on me. So, I was just really trying to enjoy myself and play poker and have the support of my rail and not really try to worry about feeling anything, because all the feelings that come with it afterwards are really what's more important than feeling anything in the moment.
John Hess was definitely a unique character. Well, maybe not entirely unique in the poker world, but an oddity, and terrific to see somebody like him make the final table. You say the way he was playing rubbed off on you. Did you see any effects on the rest of the table with having him there?
Yeah. I think, all of us kind of came out of our shell a little bit. He had Ben Lamb, talking to him and cracking jokes, and Ben's as serious as it gets at the poker table sometimes. So a guy like John is going to just bring out the fun in everyone because it's infectious. He's talking and running, every hand is a soliloquy and he's into it. And, all that combined, I thought the whole table kind of had a more relaxed feeling to it.
Certainly you had a very pivotal moment in a hand against John as well. I was wondering if you could talk us through that hand, and even if you could talk about what you did in terms of bet sizing. How did you know how you could get all the money in, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I'd like to, try to sound as smart as possible and say all this stuff. But actually, unfortunately, the hand was just too easy to play regardless. So, you get aces and you raise, and then he calls and it comes A7-5 rainbow. And, I decided to check back just because, first of all, there's only one ace left. It's hard to have that card, and then want to let him catch up a little bit and maybe take a stab at it. There's a lot of good reasons for checking. So I checked, and he raised the turn. And, when he raised the turn, I thought he had something. So I put in another bet, and he went all in. And in my eyes, it was just a pretty large cooler, especially, everyone was critiquing John and all this, but but at the end of the day, it's it's top 2 pair on the driest board. It's just a dumb situation he found himself in. That poker's a hard game, and I don't really think that he can go broke there. It's just kind of how the game works, and it's I felt bad just because I knew the mood at the table would change because the guy who's having fun is took a big hit. But other than that, it was just a very lucky hand, and definitely grateful to have it.
How do you calm yourself in that moment? Like, you've just won a massive, massive pot. You have more chips than the rest of the table combined, right? How do you calm yourself and settle back in after such a up?
The good news was I was in the big blind the next hand, so at least I got some time to wait while everyone else acted before I had to do anything. I think I don't know. I was just more excited than anything because the day didn't start out that well, and I had gone down. Actually, I had 80 million from, what did I start with, 100 some. So I was hoping to gain some chips back, and then when a hand like that happens, you just can't really prepare for it because it's just like, how often do you cooler the guy with the second most chips? It's just a freak lucky thing, and now it was important that I took advantage of it and kept playing good poker because I was given the opportunity and I didn't want to waste it.
And you didn't.
Yeah, I guess not.
And then sort of moving forward to day 3, I was lucky enough to be on the rail for it. The bluff hand, how did that feel putting, relatively early in the session, bluffing like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely quite a rush. I'll put it that way. Man, once I made the decision to raise and then that's the flop. And, it's funny because it just, in my head, from a poker standpoint, it was just as simple as, well, this is how this hand's going to play out, I think. I think I just have to do what I need to do here. And if it works, then it works. And if it doesn't work, well, at the end of the day, I think it's the right decision. So, what are you going to do? And I think in poker, that's the mindset you just have to have, or else you're already behind the 8 ball. So I'm just really happy that he folded the river. It's that easy to me.
So you've now achieved what is essentially 99% of all poker players' top goal. How does this change your life's vision?
I think it's just got to be all positive. It's at first I was worried it might not be, and I might suffer from the fallbacks of something like this. But I feel like I'm in a good mindset because the cool thing about having a little bit of money is with it comes power, and with power comes responsibility. And I feel like I have a responsibility to do some good in the world and help those who need to be helped, which is similar to what you guys' professions are. So I'm sure you can relate. I'm just gonna try to do that and continue living a life similar to what I lived 2 weeks ago when I was just a grinder.
It's awesome. And when you think back to the sessions we did and working on your mindset, how did you feel that impacted you at the table, or did you feel it impacted you on those days at the table?
Oh yeah. Of course it did. I just think at the end of the day, in any moment like that, any time you're trying to accomplish anything, probably one of the biggest things you need is focus, right? It's just about determination and focus. I just think that that's the kind of things you drive in. That's the kind of value you're trying to install in someone. And, I think the tools were there. And even if I just need a little bit of fine tuning, I certainly thought it was advantageous and would definitely do it again going forward.
Next year's final table.
Yes. Do it.
Whatever the next final table may be. It might be like the 560 down in Florida, but
you described yourself as having a fairly intact mental game by your own standards before this. But do you have any examples of a time where you've tilted, or a time where even during the main event where you saw people tilting? We love talking about tilt.
Yeah, so the truth is that my life has gone on a weird trajectory, right? Where I would actually say at one point I was like the polar opposite. I mean, I was about as bad as it gets. I was, I would make the mistake. I would play poker, but I probably didn't know what I was doing. And then I would blame it on luck, and I would look for people to blame, like what every normal thing that you could come up with of something you shouldn't do as a poker player, I probably did it. And it wasn't until I call it what you want, an epiphany or whatever, but one day I just kind of snapped out of it, and it led me on this journey to try and find the mindset that you need in order to succeed in poker, and I eventually found it. So yeah, I mean, back in the day, I was the worst. I mean, I used to denounce that there was any skill in the game, honestly. I used to literally go around and like preaching that the game was just all luck, and I have no problems talking about that because it was all just part of the journey. I mean, evolution and whatever. So it's definitely been an interesting 180 as far as that goes.
Very impressive. I mean, because when you were at the final table, you had him all in a number of times, and he just kept getting. And how did that feel? As you were just getting it all in, and again he would get by, he'd get by.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can. I'm seeing all the, not too much. I stay off the internet for the majority, but I've seen people talk about, obviously call it luck and whatever, and that's fine. Like I said, I was the same way. But if you want to talk about that, well, go look at all the all-ins I played at the final table. I think I lost almost all of them, to be honest. So, it's interesting. I don't want to sit here and say like, oh, it's easy peasy. Of course, whatever, you lose it all in, of course you're going to be fine. But having a big stack for a majority of them certainly helps. Like if you're going to lose an all in, still have a lot of chips after you lose it is my advice for having a good mental game. But other than that, it was frustrating, but I know that's the game. I mean, once you realize that part of the game are these flips that you just can't control, and just in general, the river, every hand is just a variance filled, where the check mark changes on every street. I mean, these are the things you just have to be cognizant of in order to be successful at poker.
So was it the Deuce of Hearts?
Wow, I should know this. I think it was the Deuce of Hearts. Yeah, I'm going to say it was.
I was going to say, is it your new favorite card? But apparently not.
Yeah, the Deuce of Hearts is definitely my college buddies were talking about getting it tattooed somewhere. So
that's nice to have a great crew. And you mentioned having a team. Can you talk a little bit about your team or who's on it? Anybody we know?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a great bunch of people. I mean, the problem with going over the team, it's like, where do you draw the line? Because there's so many people to thank and everything. But I'll definitely give a special shout out to Jamie Kerstetter, who actually was probably the link between me, hooking me up with Elliot in the first place. So I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that.
And she gets a new puppy, right?
Sorry, well,
I saw a tweet where she gets a new dog if you finish top 3 or something.
That is confirmed a reality. I don't know when they're going to get it, and I don't know. I was saying I don't even think it's a good idea, but I guess it's happening.
And that moment, so obviously you're in the hand, you've got to the river. How did that feel as the 2 hit?
So, going into the river, I was not probably where you would have liked me to have been mentally. We'll say that, right? There's like a 7% chance that I'm going to win this thing, and a 93% chance that after having him down to 10 bigs, after feeling like I had him on the ropes and already doing the work, that I was going to have to go back and do it again, and with the chance of even losing. So right before the river, I was not really digging. I was actually thinking about about coming and talking to you right away and just getting a little pep talk before having to go back to work. And then when the deuce hit, I mean, it was pure elation. Like I wasn't even I still can't believe it came. That's like the number one thing. It's just like, how is the river a 2? Like, how is it not any other card? And we're just back to playing poker. And so personally, it was just a combination of shock and happiness and just ready to celebrate.
Talk to us about that. What has the celebrations looked like post main event? Because I'm sure there's lots of poker players who have their plans all in their mind of when I win the main, that night is going to look like this. What did it look like for you? Yeah,
I mean, I wish I could say I had a cooler story. I mean, I think if you look at main event champions, Joe McKeon and who the list, so I could find some others. There's probably a correlation between not being huge party guys and maybe winning because I don't know. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't do anything wild. I wish I had some cool stories, but we definitely we had some drinks and there was a pool and it was perfect for me. It was the celebration I wanted. It was we had some conversations and some fun and hugs and the last couple of days I've just been in Vegas winding down and ready to get back on the road.
Taking good restaurant recommendations from Elliot.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you ever need a second job, maybe a Yelp reviewer.
I've spent a lot of time in Vegas restaurants. I've got my list.
I'm sure. That was, I mean, the things we went to the place and, we're picky eaters. So we asked if we could switch out one of the things on the menu. And the guy's like, you sure you want to do that? That's our only molecular dish where we fused, I'm like, what?
So guys, this is bizarre meats in the SLS casino.
Right.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. It was bizarre. Is not to be taken lightly, though.
So what's next?
Good,
You've won the main event. What's next? What do you do?
Yes, I think at the end of the day, the reason why I wanted to win the main event was so I could do what's next anyway, right? I mean, that's got to be the end game. So this is really like the cool part for me. I mean, poker has always been a passion of mine, and to win that tournament is obviously a dream. But at the end of the day, it's like, why does everyone play tournament poker? It's to do what I did, and so that I don't. A lot of people might get here and then be like, oh, well, this is what I wanted to get here for, but then not really have ambitions going forward. So I don't want to be that kind of guy, because I think it's important to, if you're going to get to this point, to be prepared for moving forward. So with that being said, I'm definitely going to play a little bit more poker this year, just because, I want to go around and meet some people and kind of, keep playing the game I love and hopefully have some cool conversations. But then after that, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what the plan is. I mean, I definitely have interest in doing something with business, some things with psychology, combining the two, hopefully, and, see where it takes me.
It's an exciting journey coming up.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
What are the soonest events you're going to? Where can people see you?
So Cherokee Casino, I think, in North Carolina coming up. And then the plan after that is to go to Florida for that series. So I think I'll be down south for those. And then potentially getting out WSOP Europe. I was sponsored by 888 during the tournament, and those guys were great. And they mentioned something about maybe coming out to Europe. So I've never really left America before, so that would be an awesome experience and something I'm looking forward to.
Get some stamps on that passport.
Yeah, I don't even own a passport. What's a passport? I don't even know.
Man, you're going to get used to it.
If you pay a bit extra, they rush you your passport.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Man, really, really appreciate you coming on the show. I know, everyone's after you. So, we really appreciate you coming on. It's just an awesome story. So, guys out there, it does happen. So,
I guess so.
And man, don't be a stranger to us on here. And we'll be hassling you after the next win in a few weeks' time at Cherokee.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Elliot. Take care, Adrian. Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Cheers, Scott. So I feel that's quite the coup, managing to get the main event winner on straight away. So really appreciate Scott coming on, and just an awesome story.
He obviously has his priorities straight, right?
Yeah, he knows where he has to be. That's the Mindset Advantage podcast.
There we go. I mean, it's such a great story. I really... it's such a dream. It's hard to even fathom, but I really like what he said about, I wish you guys could see my life 2 weeks ago, because it's so different. And it's just that's the joys of poker, is everything can change in a very short period of time.
And I mean, even from, I started talking with them. They brought me in just before the final table. So on those 2 days off, and then we were working before each day. And just seeing that reality getting closer and closer, and then what it meant to him, his friends, and his family, it was a very exciting thing to be around. And I feel really lucky to have been a part of all of that and really seen it firsthand, because it is what you would want it to be. So everyone out there who's thinking, what would it be like to win the main? Like, it is what you think. It is that good. So, just truly amazing experience, and really nice guy. And wish him all the best in his poker future, or if he ends up in business, whatever else he decides to do. So Adrian, where can people find you?
I will be playing some mixed games on the Twitch streets. So twitch.tv/talentchick, or if you can't remember that, just go to talentchick.com. Easy peasy. Team Talent wants to talk to you. So come hang out with us.
Go watch Adrian and watch the games that I don't understand how to play. I watch you and I just cheer, but I'm not always sure.
It's okay. PokerStars has that little equity bar. So then you just, like, once you're all in, as long as you have greater than 50% equity, you're winning.
It's all good. And check out my site, Poker Mind Coach Academy. Check it out. We've got webinars on there. MP3s to listen to. We get live pros on each month. We had Jamie Staples this month doing Q&As with the members. So that's pokermindcoachacademy.com. Check it out. See what you think. Upgrade your mental game. It's worth a lot of money in the right situation, as we saw this week. Okay, guys. Well, another good week in the mindset world. Have fun, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. And don't forget, if you want to hear more podcasts, there is After Hours in the Academy.
Yeah, that's true.
We should let them know. We talked to Scott a little bit. Our conversation with Scott didn't end there. We continued.
As I say, check it out. Let us know what you think, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good week.
You've been listening to the Mindset Advantage podcast. To get future episodes delivered to you automatically, make sure to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcasting service. To get any resources mentioned in the episode, or to listen to past shows, visit pokermindcoach.com/TMA podcast. Thanks for listening.